Hercules, yeah, they've that's something. That was something. That was a win. I think that's the most important part. But not maybe not the prettiest of wins. And you know what? These games with these lower table teams, they get like this sometimes. And I think if you can win these types of games, you can win. You can win anything. But it was a tough. At times, it was a tough watch, and I felt like at certain points, I felt like okay, are we going to slip up and drop the points in the last moment? But no, we did not, and in the end, we won even 2-0. So I guess all is good that ends good.
Yeah, all is good that ends good. I was almost ready for another Xavi 1-0 at the end,
Mm,
but then Ferran came in and scored that goal, which was an absolute banger. So he's having a great season as a sad to say, but backup player.
mm.
Probably he has made the case to be a starter, but I don't think if he'll be this effective if he's a starter, though. That's a question with Ferran. But overall, this was a tough one with Las Palmas. It's always been tough for Barca. So yeah, lots to talk about. I always love the intensity with Sandro plays whenever we play Las Palmas. So we'll talk about it and we'll look at the scores and some of the stuff as well. But hey, welcome everyone. Looks like we've got another 3 points in the bag. Obviously, lots to discuss about. There was, I think, a handball and a penalty that will be discussed a lot.
Mm.
And then I think overall, the first half was tough. I think I found it quite hard. And then I think the goal from Olmo and the goal from Ferran sorted the points for us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there are things to discuss, right? We can go and kind of deconstruct the game a little bit and see what people want to know about the game as well once they start coming in a little bit. But I think the whole lineup. See, when you see the lineup, and Flick has obviously decided to rotate a little bit, but that's with Atletico Madrid in mind because we do have Atletico in like what, 3 days, 2 days from now. So I think that was the priority, and you can actually see a couple of things that Flick has told us with this lineup is he told us who the rotational or maybe more situational pieces might be. So you have Araujo, Indigo, and Eric basically fighting for one spot, while Kubarsi is the number one,
I mean,
obviously.
yeah,
Yeah, and then in midfield you do have Olmo, Fermin, Frankie and Gavi as well fighting for those two spots, and you have Pedri obviously being the obvious starter, and then that's the pieces that Flick tends to rotate. If he rotates, I think that's kind of the main players that he keeps in his rotation. Obviously, there's still Ferran Torres who can come in for Lewandowski, but even that is more likely to happen off the bench, not from the get go. But these players that we saw in the lineup today, they're the players that Flick might actually give a chance from the start, and that those are the situational pieces. And today's lineup, that's number two I want to discuss, is a lineup that gives you a certain different style. If we talk about Flick's verticality, this is what we get. So you have Eric in the back line, you have Casado in the middle, and you have Fermin. What this gives you essentially in the build-up, it gives you a 3-3-4, but Casado drops between the center backs, so he's the deepest player. Fermin is very, very high, next to Rafinha even, is in the double 10, and then Pedri is the only player that's between the lines or in the middle third, and that invites verticality, especially with the profiles and the whole scheme of the team. So I think it shouldn't surprise us that we play a certain way when these profiles or the system is in place at the team. So I think that's what we can gather from the lineup itself. Dev. Just your
Has
thought.
anybody ever done something on a double 10, Dom? Have
I don't
anybody done a tactical setup on a double 10? I think you
know.
should. I think we should
Yeah,
make a video out of the double 10
we
and just
we
talk about
could,
it.
we
What you
could.
said is tactically correct. This is what happened
Yeah.
today. But
Mhm.
I don't recall saying anything like that. Anyway, it's a good one. So yeah, obviously the offside will be discussed. Now there'll be obviously various points of view on moment of delivery of ball. Yes, they had four people on who were offside, but who were distracting the ball or not. And then at the moment that it happened, I think it touched a Las Palmas player's hand as
Yeah.
well. That was not very convincing. And then Eric's back was out to the goal. So then there was so many questions around that. I don't think whatever answer we'll come up with, there will be somebody with a different answer. I'm pretty sure about that. So if you come up with
Mhm.
yes, it was, then somebody will have to say no, it wasn't. And
Mhm.
but I think after a lot of discussion, the verdict went that it was not a penalty, and to me it was the right call. But to
Yeah.
you know supporters who are not Barca supporters, it would be the wrong call, and I understand that. But yeah, that's how it goes. It just that's how refereeing in Spain has become right now. So there's no right
Yeah,
or wrong. It's all somewhere in the middle, and you just go with oh, it came our way. It's fine.
that's true. Oh, see, when the referee went to look at the screen, I was sure it was a penalty because whenever they go to the screen, 99% of the time it's a penalty. And had it not been for the offside before that, the handball would have been called definitely for the penalty. So I think we got a bit saved by the bell, so to speak, but it was the right call in the end. At least that was we think. Yeah, as Dev said, probably people will say it's Negreira or whatever, but I think
Yeah,
it's
I
the
mean,
right
if you
call.
go and ask any fan, which was not a Barca fan, they will clearly say that that was a stone cold penalty and we should have got it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's so subjective now. There's these things and the rules of, I think, yeah, the rules of offside have been so vague forever, which makes the game also interesting. But yeah, it is what
yeah,
it is. So no point debating, no point saying I think that, you think that. It is what it is. It went
yeah.
our way. It could have easily not gone our way, and maybe in the next one it won't go our way. So it is what it is. So we should sort of run with it. Okay. Let's take another one, which is against low blocks. Lewa is the top of the coin. Ferran pulls our defenders with his stance better suited. Probably Ferran is better, but I don't think Ferran gives the same output if he's playing for 90 minutes. I may be wrong though,
Yeah.
but like whatever little data that I've scouted, I think he's insanely effective. Goals to time ratio when he comes, the 70th minute or what have you.
Mhm.
But when he's playing for 90, we don't just get the same output from him. And yes, Lewa isn't the most successful or hasn't been the most successful against low blocks, but the man has about 30 goals this season. So how do you bench him? He is the number one striker for Barcelona, and not just in this league, across many leagues. He's doing quite well from a number perspective. So how do you bench a person like that? Yes, I totally, the argument is clear that yes, he doesn't do well against low blocks, which is true. But if you're a coach and you have a player like that who's giving you the goals when you need, and he has, how do you go and tell that player, hey, you're benched? Don't know. Tom?
Exactly. I mean, as good as Ferran has been, and he has been really good. We made videos, pieces, shorts, whatever you just name it, and lots of them just praising Ferran Torres for his recent performances, and he has to be praised because these things need to be acknowledged and they need to be rewarded as well. I think Flick is rewarding him. He is still a bench player, as Dev says, and he's a very effective bench player, but he's a consistent player on the pitch as well. So he gets game time consistently, which is not always the case for bench players. So you have to be a certain type of value, a tool that can be used to be someone who the coach relies upon. And Flick relies on Ferran to sometimes change the game, sometimes maybe put the finishing touches on the game, like tonight, for example, or maybe just someone who can bring a different dynamic when the game state shifts to a different game state, right? So I think that's what Ferran is best at, to kind of do all these things for you when you need him to. Now, tonight, I found Lewandowski to be very frustrating, to be honest. It just feels like he had one of those nights when everything that went through him collapsed. So nothing worked out that went through him. But again, having Ferran in this setup is not ideal to me either, because there was not much space for him to run into. Yes, he can drag markers away to create space for the players, but again, the block the Las Palmas had and the way they marked the runners when there were runners, sorry, I think in those cases they were doing their job really well. And I don't think Ferran would have been much more effective especially from the start. So in that sense, I think Olmo was the big Olmo and Fermin. So Fermin was the wrong piece. Olmo was the right piece for this game, because look at all the chaos and everything that was happening in that zone 14, that middle area of the pitch. Olmo fits perfectly well there, whereas Fermin did not really find himself that well in that situation, because there was no space for him to exploit. And that's why I keep saying he's a situational player, because in this setup, we did not get the best out of him. Whereas in a different game with more space, with more chances to run into that space, exploit the space, create the space, then you can use Fermin. But in this situation, I think Olmo was the better choice, and I think we saw that. A fit Dani Olmo is a game changer for Barcelona. Now, obviously, we can get into all of that again. How fit can he actually be? But apparently, Flick has come out and said that they are looking into different plans for Dani Olmo, how to make
Yeah,
him more fit. The same thing they did with Pedri, and it
Pedri.
apparently worked. Yeah, it worked. So if they can do their magic with Dani Olmo, a fully fit Dani Olmo for the whole
Dangerous.
season,
Very
that is
dangerous.
That would be amazing news for Barcelona. But we'll see. I mean,
Well, we'll see. They've sent his, his gene sequence to some lab in Baltimore, and they found out that whatever they needed to find. I'm not a medical expert by a long shot, but apparently it seems that there are ways in which his training can be altered or manipulated or what have you, so that he
yeah.
suddenly starts playing like regularly, like Pedri does this season. So yeah, if that's something like that happens, then that's great, because Olmo gives you, when he does play, he gives you that certain X factor which only few people have. Like the goal today also, it just we were not being able to break them down, to be honest, for a long time, and he just came in and the goal happened. And so Olmo gives you that in tough games when things are not going your way, he can come in really and change the narrative. But for that, he has to play, and he hasn't played that much. So hopefully, whatever Julius and his team are trying, hopefully that works out, and Olmo is a more regular contender and contributor to the cause, and that'll help us in a long way. All right, okay. Let's take a few more things. The second half from Lamine talked. So Lamine was pretty good. But again, I do think we are playing him a lot. Dom, I just don't know, if you don't play him, what do you do? There are challenges because I think he kind of expects to be there. All the media hype around him. So if you don't, then there will be media again. And the other thing is, I think, who's there? I mean, Ferran can replace him, probably, but will he be as effective? Because
No.
because Lamine is not just the attack; he puts in a lot of work on interceptions. He puts in a lot of work in the connection with Balde and with our Kunde and so on and so forth. So I think, I mean, who will you replace him with?
No, you don't have that profile. I mean, Ferran can play right wing, Rafinha can play right wing, but both of those players are completely different. They're not the magician type wingers. That's what Lamine is. Lamine is a magician type winger that thinks, that has a special move for almost any scenario. So he has the tools to solve any problem in the game. Basically, that's what Lamine is. Even at 17 years old, he is that kind of a player. Now, you don't have anyone else on the wings that's like that. No one else breaks the game the way Lamine breaks the game, especially on those wings. We have Pedro in the middle, that's fine, okay. But on the wings, we don't have that profile. So if you remove him, you will lose a profile and the quality, right? So you will lose the type of player, but also you will inevitably lose the quality as well, because no one can even match him in that. But what I would say is, the right time to sub Lamine off is when you're winning and you know that you're winning, and that's it. So you have to be able to take him off even when he doesn't like it. And I think that's the next step for Lamine as well, because he gets so frustrated, and he also gets a bit disconnected if he's not involved. He wants to be.
Even today, I think when they cut the camera, you could see his face. He wasn't happy.
He wasn't happy. If he's not being at the center, if he's not the one pulling those magic moves, he gets frustrated. He has to touch the ball a lot. And Messi was the same. And all those players, Neymar was the same. All those players that are magician players that do miracles.
They always want to play.
They always want to play. They always need the ball, and you have to give them the ball so they stay in the game mentally. Physically, they can still do whatever he wants to do, but mentally, he needs to be in the moment. And then when it's time for him to do the right thing and say, okay, now I can get subbed off because we're winning 4-0, he has to accept that. That's the coach's wish. That's the coach's choice. I have to respect it. I'm 17. I'm a superstar, but I have to accept the coach's decision, right? So I think that's the next.
That's my thing with him. Like I think he's still work to do on his finishing and so on and so forth. And
I mean,
I think his age and the amount of time that he's playing, and I think a little bit of caution won't be bad at this time. Now, whether Flick can do that or not, that's a question, or what Barcelona want to do, that's a question. But yes, there are two things. Like, the more he plays, he will get better. But until he irons out some chinks in the game that he needs to, which will take time, the more he plays, he'll also be more predictable. He'll also get more targeted. He'll also get more zoned in with defenders. So it's none of that is easy. And for that, you need the maturity to handle that. And does he have that maturity yet? Maybe he does. But there's no harm in taking it a little bit slow. Great half from Lamine to the point that was raised, for sure. And but we'll need him. We'll need him fresh because there's a long stretch. We have 3 games with Atleti, maybe 3 games with Real Madrid, maybe a game with Bayern again. So there's a lot to play for in the season. and we'll need these players, at that time. So they need to save that best for that
They do.
moment.
They
While
do.
the league games, if we can manage somehow, just 1-0s, 2-0s, whatever, just win it.
Mhm.
It's fine.
Yeah, we can win those games. Like these La Liga games, they're very difficult, right? Okay. This is a big trip. The trip to Gran Canaria is tricky because the team has to travel a day earlier. So usually, what Barca do, they travel with the bus on the day of the game. But this trip is a longer one, so they go a day earlier. It just disrupts the whole flow, the whole system they have in place. So it's not an easy away game to play, not just because of the opponent, but also because of the travel, the ground, all of that taken into consideration, right? Now the players do seem a bit sluggish. I don't think they are. I mean, they are fit, but they're not rested. They're not well rested. That's for sure. And the travel gets impacts that as well. And you can see it in the intensity. You can see it in the execution of some basic actions. That's the biggest tell that we have. So I think these La Liga games will need to be be won on not on autopilot, but through this way, sluggish, and maybe cagey, maybe a bit difficult, nervous, just barely getting the job done, but getting done by your quality alone, right? So we have the quality to overpower teams, to not to steamroll them always, but just to overpower them with our pure quality, not our fancy tactics or our fancy play, but just being the better, having the better players and having a better team overall. So I think you take this win. We have to take this win, even though it's not always the prettiest one, but you have to take it. That's it. That's the basic of it.
Yeah, last one was trying to suffocate Pedri. They were successful to some extent. I would say yes, they were. I think they had a
Yeah.
very disciplined game for majority of the game, and except those two chances where we did score, it wasn't easy for us at all. It was
Yeah.
tough. The first half was really tough to break them down.
Mhm.
So I think they were pretty successful. And the thing is, everybody's watching. So what they have done in this match, there are 20 other teams who are watching, and they will try to replicate it. So, but the thing is, players like Pedri, players like Olmo, players like Lamine, they'll always be targeted. They'll always be controlled.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's normal. They'll have to figure it out. Today, Las Palmas did it pretty well. You're absolutely right. But thankfully, we could get the job done through Olmo and Ferran in the last minutes. And we'll need that, in upcoming games. There has to be, a Fermin or an Eric or somebody who has to just come up and deliver the goods, so that the train can
Yeah.
keep chugging and so on. Okay, let's talk about the defense, which is with Casado, Eric, and Kubasi. We don't win any aerial ball, but on the ball, great Araujo. Yes, and is it something worrying? But we talked about it, Dom. It's
Yeah.
going to be hard for Araujo to get his position back, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be. I think this is another indication of it because I think now he's fit, right? Araujo
He's
is
fit.
fit. There's not. This is just these are tactical decisions, right? But like he's unless he's saving him for the Atletico game, which I don't think he is because he should be well rested, right? And he would need some match sharpness heading into a big clash like that. So I'm not. I don't think he is starting the next game either. So it's a tactical choice, and it's also a stylistic choice by Flick because he's showing us, okay, this is what I actually prefer. This would be my plan B. Now Eric is not obviously plan A. He has a plan B. So maybe Araujo is plan C even.
See,
But if he is, we're not saying that he is, but if he is, then what was all this new contract about? Because he wants to be paid like a plan A, not like a plan C, and he wants to play like a plan A and not like a plan C. So I think there's a whole
yeah,
gap. It might be a big problem, right? Because there's a gap
it
between
is
what
because
he's
I
getting.
don't see him staying like this since the summer. He's definitely not
Exactly.
going to accept this, right? Because
Yeah.
and then there's also the question of Christensen, right? And
Right.
then there are murmurs of Jonathan Tah coming in. But let's assume that Tah comes in. Does it mean that both Araujo and Christensen leave? That's a problem, according to me, because we don't have all the defenders for all kinds of situations. Like Eric is good in the
Yeah.
ball playing, but then in certain games, Eric will be found wanting.
Yeah. He will be.
Massively. Like put a very fast winger on the flanks, and Eric will struggle, and so on. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know. Like, what do you think is the game plan from Barca from here?
Well, I think if a big offer comes in for Araujo, I saw some reports today, and
60,
I
100 million
don't.
from Manchester United, as
Yeah,
usual.
100 million from Man United. I don't know how reliable that report was. I mean, it's very early to say. We're still months away from the summer transfer window anyway. And the media always needs something on Barca, right? So they will come up with things. Now, if that kind of money is offered, like is on the table, you take it, right? You take it because if Araujo is not even plan B, even if he's plan B, that's not enough, right? To decline 100 million offer or anything close to that. If someone activates his release clause and he's not your nailed on starter at that point when that offer comes in, you do it, you sell him. And I'm sure I'll make a lot of Araujo fans very angry. I'm not scapegoating him. He is a fine player for the
He
profile
is a
he
great
is.
player. He is.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem that Flick values his profile as much as his fans do, and I think Flick's opinion is much more important than ours anyway. So that's there you go. If Flick doesn't change his stance on Araujo, and if Araujo doesn't become a much more impactful and valuable squad player, then selling him for a decent, more than decent amount of money is the way to go. And then you bring someone in like Ta. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Probably we would bring someone in, but I would say that that money would then be firstly prioritized for a attacking signing, and then if we have the money, if we have the wages, we would sign someone more of a squad player, not someone who would replace. For no one's replacing Kubarsi, but no one. But I'm not sure that we would buy a starting lineup player if we sell Araujo, even if we sell Araujo.
Yeah, I mean,
So we'll
I don't know. It's a good point. Araujo might end up as a backup to Kunde if he needs to defend. Yes, logically, probably he can play the right back, and he's done it against Vinny and so on and so forth. But I don't think he's going to accept that position. So that might be a challenge. He did celebrate with Ferran though today. So
He did, yeah.
body language wise looked positive, looked all of that stuff. On the media, he's been saying the right things, but I just don't see him accepting this, and I don't see Flick changing. I don't see Flick changing his point of view from the way he wants the defense to play. And he's proving his point because again today it was a clean sheet, right? We have been keeping clean sheets for a while, so he's justifying his decision and his squad. The way he picks his squad by the results. But it looks like there is an Araujo problem right now. And also a Christensen problem, because we don't really know what's happening with Christensen. He just disappeared from the beginning of the season. First, it was some vague injury. Then there was another vague injury. Every time there was somebody to register, he had an injury, and then he was just not visible throughout the season. I don't see how any player would accept that. But so I think it's Christensen. He's a great. I actually like Christensen a lot. He's a great player. He's outstanding, right? But he has not, been seen around. Araujo is slowly, getting a little bit far away, as we can all see. And the whole combination of Inigo, Kubarsi, and Eric, they, as you rightly pointed, some people have rightly pointed out, they do get the job done on the ball, and that's how Flick wants to play it. But again, I think there is a definite need for profiles like Araujo and Christensen on certain game times, which we don't have. And I personally think getting rid of both of them would be a mistake. That's my personal belief. I am not Flick. I have never, managed a football team, so what do I know? But that's what my thinking would be.
I think so too. It would decrease our body significantly, and sometimes for these long stretches of in the season, you need bodies. You need quality bodies, of course, but we've been at points where we didn't have anyone. Right, we had to play the kids from various different places, different positions, and that's also the thing with Araujo being a replacement or sub for Koundé. I'm not sure that Flick would want that, because he's not shown us that he would risk having a completely different profile on that right back spot as well, because you need someone who's going to connect with Lamine, and I don't think Araujo would be able to do that, right? So, and that's a big problem, because if Koundé is not there and he's not dismarking Lamine, he's not accessing Lamine properly, then that's a big problem. And I'm not sure how Araujo would do in that role as a Flick right back, very specific role again, not always the same thing. So in that regard, I don't see him as a Flick right back at the moment. But then again, he's not a Flick center back, so at least not in this current state that he's in, which might be a physical thing, mental thing, a bit of both. We don't know. But the point is, at the moment, he's just not there. He's not he might be on Flick's mind, but somewhere after Inigo, after Kubarsi, after Eric, after everyone. So it's a tough spot at the moment for Araujo.
It's a tough spot for him. I feel for him, man. He's been all said and done, all controversy aside, whatever, he's been a
Mm.
fine soldier for Barcelona. And he was
Yeah.
there in our like toughest times, and it was absolute shit everywhere. He was there, and he was one of the
Mm.
names that we always looked forward to and kept that hope alive. So I feel bad for him, but at this moment, it looks tough for him. All right, let's talk a little bit about. We'll come to Benfica and we'll talk about that, but let's talk about the game today. Like Sandro, he was good, right?
Yeah, he was. It's funny how
The
many.
constant pain on the side throughout the game,
Mm.
and he always is whenever he plays Barca. I don't know. I don't watch all the Las Palmas games, so I won't know how Sandro is in all the games. But it always feels like when it's Barca, he has some extra motivation to prove something, and it was really good today. And it was hard. It was hard against him. Will be very frustrated that he didn't get that goal.
Yeah, he will be. I mean, he had a very weird spell for Barca. He scored a couple of goals. There was a spell back when he was in our team that he looked decent. He was competing with Munir, if I'm not wrong. That was how many years ago was that? It was a long time ago, and he was
18,
competing with
19. That was when he was
So he was competing with Munir and
17 to 19. I think that phase.
somewhere around that time. Yeah. It was a
But
very
Messi was
weird
still
time
there.
for him.
I think at
Yeah,
that time Messi
Messi
was still
was
there.
still there. Yeah, he
Messi
was. He
left in
was.
2020, so yeah, it was that phase.
It was yeah, Messi was still there, and it's not just Sandro, it's Silas, and it's also not Mingueza, but Mika Marmo is there as well. So there's so many ex-Barca players, and I love Mika Marmo. I mean, today against Barca, you can't really gauge his ability because Mika is excellent on the ball as well. He's a prototype Barca centre back, but against Barca, you don't get much of that, right? You don't get to show your in possession stuff much. You don't get that the time and space on the ball because Barca will press you and Barca will have most of the ball anyway. So Mika didn't really do what he's best at, not at all times, but I love that player so much. And yes, Sandro, he had his chances, and ex-Barca players, they always have a point to prove. Look at Dembele. I mean, Dembele is the best player on the planet against Barca always. So it's a funny thing, It's a funny thing, but it is
Yeah,
what it is.
it is interesting to see that. But I mean, he had a good game. He had a good game.
Yeah,
And
he had.
he had a good game in the last time that he played. He comes to life, brings a lot of graft and grit to the game. Always tries, shows up. It's nice to see that effort. Unfortunately, they lost. But I hope beyond that, I think Las Palmas is just 3 points to our relegation right
Yeah.
now, which is scary. I didn't think they were this bad in the league, and I would like them to stay up. They're a good team, so hopefully they find what they need to find in the next 14 games to stay up, because otherwise that will be a shame if they go down.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, but these games, man. I mean, on paper you should be crushing these teams, but you just know in your bones that you go into this game, and that team that's almost in the relegation zone is going to fight for their lives. They're going to be so disciplined. They're going to come with a game plan. They'll be preparing for that game for months. Right? They know, okay, Barca is in 2 months. Let's get on it. They will study the material. They will come up with different solutions. They will play the best game of their life, and this is why you have these games in La Liga that are so difficult. When on paper they should not be, but it's La Liga. La Liga is difficult, man. It's very
It
difficult.
is. It is.
Um,
Casado was keen shutting down Las Palmas counterattack since we gave the ball. Yes, it is. He's true, and that's what he's good at. He's really good at that because he's defensively minded. He was very industrious, puts in a shift. That's where he and Frankie are a little bit different. Like in situations like this, he's better than Frankie in what I think from just a defensive point of view, and he played that to perfection today. And for that, he deserves credit. But again, there is something about Casado that Flick will not want him on every match. I'm pretty sure about that. The biggest games, I think Frankie is starting, and
yeah.
we talked a lot about it, and we even did a long video about that, and so on. So just watch it on YouTube. But Dominic, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, you know what good Casado gives you, right? And tonight there was a weird system configuration that I didn't really like. So Casado was very deep in possession all the time, and Ferran was very high in possession all the time. So you had Pedri all alone in the middle of the pitch a lot of the time. I don't like that combination of players, right? So Casado is good for certain game states, and Frankie is better for some other game states, right? So that's what we know. Now in this situation, he did show his good sides, but also someone mentioned the long balls and the aerial duels and the marking when running down the channel. I think those things he can struggle with. So he can be exposed in certain things, but he's a very valuable and grateful player to have in your team because he's very hardworking and his mentality is unyielding, right? I think he has the captain mentality, as you would say, and that's one of his best traits. Now, if you have Castro, who's a very good distributor as well on the ball, and you have Fermin, who's a runner, and you have Rafinha, who's a runner, and you have Pedri, who's very isolated, so he can't do much on his own, then you invite a certain game style as well. So that's kind of what you get with this setup and with Casado as well. But yes, I think he's overall, you know what you get from him, and you know what his limitations are. So you have to play around that. That's the main thing.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the next player, which is your thoughts on how La Liga seems to congest our fixtures for only the players to get 2 days of rest or Champions League. I saw this on Twitter on a few timelines. See, honestly, we don't know. We're not working inside La Liga. We don't know what controversies, but it seems like, everything's not a controversy, honestly, and everybody's not out to get Barca, just like everybody's not out to get, Real Madrid. And I think some of it we make up on our own. I think both teams, both Barca and Madrid, being big and bringing revenue and all of that stuff, they get away with a lot. And I think whatever little that comes this way, I think we just have to adjust it and walk away with it. Is there a controversy? Is there a conspiracy against us? I don't think so. Dom, what do you feel?
No, there's no. I don't think so. I don't think there's a conspiracy theory out there. I don't think. I mean, if anything, La Liga should be working to keep these big teams, as happy as possible. I'm not saying they should give calls in their favor, but no one's out to get Barca because Barca is so big in La Liga. They make most of the La Liga's brand alongside Real Madrid, and then there's Atletico and there's a couple more clubs. But Barca and Real Madrid are the main faces of La Liga, and I don't think La Liga aims to destroy that brand or destroy their connection with that club. I mean, everyone should get fair refereeing, right? The same refereeing, everyone should get that, absolutely. But I don't think that La Liga is trying to get us. I don't think that exists. At least I don't think so. They might favor some teams sometimes. That happens. Big teams more often get favors or calls in their favor than little teams. That's a fact. That's a fact that we have to live with as Barca fans. We get more favors than Las Palmas do. For
we
example.
do 100%. 100%. So we do get more than Las Palmas or Celta or Osasuna. So we got to accept what we get and be mindful. Yes, some things go against us, which is fine. But I don't think there's a all around conspiracy against, okay, let's get these guys down. I think like our salary limit has actually increased, if you see. So they do things by the book. There are things that go wrong. It's okay. It's fine. And it's unfortunate that we don't get, a little bit more of rest time between the two games. You're right. It has changed. So yes, it will affect our Champions League. And at that time of the season, every day matters. But, it is you playing professional football. You're getting paid billions to play that. So if you need to accept it.
And if they do it for us, they will have to do it for Atletico. They will have to do it for Real Madrid, and they will have to do that for every team like that plays in the Champions League. We have 3 teams, right? Of course, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid are playing each other. But at the same time, they would have to adjust the league so that all 3 teams get rest. And I don't think it's a difficult thing to do, right? But with Real Madrid, I think the referees might be looking at them a bit differently now. But that's because they brought it upon themselves, right?
Yeah, it was just not needed.
Yeah, not needed. They willingly went to war with La Liga. And now there might be, we don't know if there is something, but there might be. I think that some referees might be, not happy with their decisions lately. Now, does that mean that they will, referee wrongly against? Probably they won't, but they might be a bit more stern. That might be a bit more, less lenient towards them. Let's just put it that way. But yeah.
Okay, what's the glitch in the system? There's something wrong in the matrix. Anthony and Ferran are changing and scoring goals. Dom, question for you.
It's just the environment, my friend. Just the environment. You put anyone in the wrong environment and they will struggle. Do you think that Coutinho and Dembele are bad players? No, dude, they are amazing players. But the wrong environment just kills everything. Look at Vitor Roque. That's a culture thing as well. If the wrong culture, wrong environment, so many things play into how well a player does in a certain team. It's not just a profile. The profile is king. I always say that profile is king. You have to look at the profile, but you have to get the psychology right. You have to get the culture right, the environment right, the connections with the players, everything. That's why transfers at the top of the elite teams are so important to get right. Look at how many transfers are actually successful transfers with top teams. Very, very few, because it's a very ungrateful and very difficult job to do. It's not just about the tactics and the numbers. There's a lot of it psychology and culture and feelings, emotions, yada yada yada. There's a lot that goes into it. So that's it.
Well, Balde has been consistently good in recent games. Do you think so? Yes, he has, and you'll be happy to know that we just recorded it today. So you should see a
Today,
fairly nice video and magnum opus from Dom on Balde this week coming up. So keep a watch. It's a long tactical blog that Dom's been writing, and we just finished, just recording a video with some of the insights on Balde. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. So I'll keep for that. Watch it and let us know how you felt. Let's keep going. I think somewhere many fans can be unrealistic regarding these games, but that's what fans do. Fans are supposed to be unrealistic. If fans become all realistic and logical, then there is no fun. Fans will be fans. They will want their team to be good, and and there's a balance that needs to be there. But there's nothing like this is normal. Like there'll be fans who will be unhappy. There'll be fans who will expect 10 goals in every match, and then there'll be fans who will be rational and calm and all of that stuff. So it's okay. It's what makes football fun. That's going to change tomorrow, so it's all right. Yes, we are happy seeing Barca, but it hurts watching our golden boy Gavi not getting minutes. But Gavi is not at that level. Why not play him along with Pedri? Won't his aggressive streak help us more? Probably no, because of the way Flick plays. He was a beautiful fit in Xavi's system, which was where he was positioned a little deep. For Flick, Flick wants him to play much up front, where probably he's not as effective as he was in that earlier position. And for right now, the situation where it is, I would say a Ferman and a FDJ give us more in the system than Gavi does, which is sad. And again, I'm not saying that Gavi is not great; he is awesome. We just have to figure out a way to incorporate him in the starting 11, and I don't think Flick has been able to do that yet. Also, I think he's just back from injury, so it's going to take a little time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's the role absolutely where he doesn't see much of the ball when he plays, which is I don't think he's the best use of Gavi anyway. But it's also mental as well. I think Gavi is still quite disconnected. It's not so the thing that his body or his mind wants to do and what his body can do are not on the same page, right? He knows what he's meant to be doing. He knows what he used to be doing, but he just can't replicate that yet. So I think there's a big gap there between those two things. And when you're coming off a difficult injury, that's what happens. So Araujo might be going through the same thing as well, and I would not be surprised if that was the case. And that would be a very viable reason to be less good than what we would maybe want him to be or expect him to be. So I think that's it. That's Gavi's thing currently. So I think that as good as he is, he's still not. He's not back fully. He's not fully back. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think I don't think there's any conspiracy here. I think Flick values him massively. We have seen that. I think Gavi will have roles to play, but I think just right now he needs to get back to his best. And the team also needs to figure out how to incorporate him in that starting lineup, which I don't think they've been able to. So it is just what it is. We just got to go with it for this season and see what happens. All right, Sejny, 11. Van Lee's back. 11 matches, 0 defeats. If it's not broke, don't fix it. We agree with you, Van Lee. That
Absolutely.
whatever the reason may be, whatever the voodoo that was done, we are not conceding. We're not, we're winning. So as long as that is working, I doubt it's changing. And Flick is very openly saying that he's not going to change it. It's Szczesny, all the competitions, irrespective of what it is. So yeah, it is working out. And yes, Peña will feel very hard done by. But I think there is reasons why Flick has chosen him, and I think it's going to continue for the rest of the season. I'll take another one from you, which is I'm loving Flick's proactive subs in the second half. He has been super proactive. One thing I like about Flick is that he doesn't wait till the 70th or the 75th or the 80th minute to make subs. He makes them at the 40th minute. If it's not working, he changes and he fixes it almost immediately, and that's been a hallmark of his entire season in Barca, and that has helped us a lot of times, even today. The timing of the subs to kill the game, or all of that was perfect. and I think he's doing that very well, and something that we can all learn by. But Dom, your thoughts before we move to the next. A lot of comments
No,
on it.
yeah. I mean, exactly that. The only thing that I want to see maybe change or maybe manage differently is Lamine and Lewandowski. You have to. Well, Lewandowski has seen some bench time lately, but in games like this one, for example, was he subbed off? I don't think he was, or was he in the end? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But Lewandowski stayed on the pitch for far too far too long. I think that's my only criticism. But the rest is on point. That yeah, I think he's very quick to act, and that's important. If he sees that something's broken or not working, he's immediately trying to
He's
fix it.
immediately
And
fixing
that,
it. He
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
wait. With many clubs, many coaches, you will see that there's something's wrong, but till the 75th, there is no change that's happening. At the
no
75th, they
change.
will make the change. Flake, 40th minute, you're out. You're gone. So that's something about him that is consistent. Okay, I think Ferran's showing a striker's instinct apart from the link-up play, but he can be used in behind against curtain openly playing games. Did you mean curtain openly? Or let's pick up what
In open games, yeah. I think in open games,
that's what he
just
meant. Yeah. Dom, why don't you take it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the link-up play, yeah, he has that, but the poacher instinct, striker instinct that you're talking about, he definitely has that. I call Ferran the system finisher, but he definitely, if there's something instinctive about Ferran, is how he smells goals. So see how many goals this season alone he has scored when the ball somehow bounces off of someone and falls directly at his feet. If it happens once, that's lucky, right? If it happens 2 or 3 or 4 times, which has happened this season alone, then it's more than luck because he knows where to be to get those, to scoop up those passes. Yeah, sometimes the ball is just deflected and somehow look who's there, Ferran. It's always him, right? So I think from that perspective, he can smell goals, and yes, to your point, Bayan, he does have those instincts and he knows where to be, and that's why he has so many goals this season because he does have. He's a good player in his movement and positioning, and that gets him in constantly good situations. Now, can he score most of them? Probably not, because his finishing can be kind of but he will still get goals. You give him those situations, and he'll get you goals. That's it.
That's a good point from Van Lee. I'm warming up to the idea about Luis Diaz. It'll be like having 2 Rafinhas on the pitch. It's true. They're kind of the same. Flick system needs energetic pressing forward. He does. Now, I mean, there's a huge. I think in the fan base, I think there are people who like Luis Diaz and there are people who don't like Luis Diaz. So this will be contentious. But from a player perspective, he's a really good player. He's been done amazingly well at Liverpool. Has fit with Arne Slot, and he fit with Jurgen Klopp. Both are high pressing kind of managers, so obviously he knows how to play that game. Will fit very well with Flick's system, and apparently Deco likes him a lot. So yeah, it can happen. But I think Dom, you had a thought against or not against, like that you had a separate preference.
I mean, yeah, he wouldn't be the first name on my list because he was. I think the quoted price was very high for him back when they were linked with him. But on paper, I mean, there's nothing not to like. Yes, he can be a bit erratic like Dembele, and people don't like that because he's a bad finisher and so on and so forth. But he has the mentality, he has the technical quality, he has the physical quality. I mean, everything that you would want in a winger, he has it. Now, he doesn't have goals, and he tries a lot of dribbles, he tries a lot of runs, so he loses some balls, and people see it as a negative, but I don't think it's a negative. Right? He will lose balls. All the big dribblers lose a lot of balls. Even Lamine loses a lot of balls. It's natural, but he has all the foundations for a great or even elite winger are there for Luis Diaz. Now, I don't know the tactical fit. I would have to go more into scouting to tell you that. But on paper, he is a very, very good winger in general, right? So that would be my take on Luis Diaz.
All right, let's look at some of the scores and then the scoring. I think it's all 7.5 on SofaScore. Casado is a 7.5. Garcia is 7.6. Almost. Rafinha is the only one in the 8s, I'm guessing. Famin Lopez with a 6.4. Oh no, Lamine is an 8. Lamine is 8. So yeah, I would say the scores would be what we saw on the pitch. Only the finishing wasn't there from either Lamine or Rafinha, but they played a really, really good game. Now let's look into some of the other stats, possession and so on and so forth. So yes, expected. The XG was about 1.47 to 0.47, which means we overachieved our XG, which is what I said was hard. It was hard to really create scoring chances against Las Palmas, even though we had a ton of possession, and we only had two big chances and we scored two goals, right? So that just tells you how hard it was from that, even though we had 15 shots and so on and so forth, from a system perspective. Sandro Ramirez, I think they've talked about him here, hit the block, number of stuff and so on. Big chances, scored twice, penalty touches 34. I think here Barca can do probably better, and that's why probably how almost goal came about, because he just materialized in the right place at the right time, and we finished the chance. But I think this is not just in this game. This is in quite a few games that we have a lot of touches in the penalty areas, but the conversion hasn't been to the level that it can be. But again, it's nitpicking. But Dom, any thoughts of this on why it's being congested? What's happening?
It's a fair point, Dev, that you made there. I mean, we do have lots of touches, but we're trying to be too fancy with the ball in the box. Like for example, Rafinha in the latter state, it was still 1-0. Rafinha gets the ball in the box, and instead of just trying a shot from a decent position, he tries to take 2 or 3 extra touches, tries to lay the ball up with his, flick the ball over or something like that, something very fancy and unnecessary at that stage. You're in a good position. Just shoot the damn ball. You're inside the box. And sometimes Barca are very guilty of this. Even outside the box, there's a good chance to just let loose and try a shot. But we're just trying to be risk averse, I guess, or maybe try for a better position, even better chance. I don't know what it is. Or maybe it's an instruction from Flick. I don't know. But we do tend to not be so courageous and just trying to let loose. Sometimes just try a shot and see what happens.
Look at the passing zones: 19%, 48%, and 33%. So it gives you a clear idea on which half of the pitch the game was being played, and probably this will be the high line, the 19%, the green line there. So it just tells you how it has been. Let's look at the percentages from that perspective. 80% that we had in terms of the final third. The long balls, we weren't that good. Crosses, we weren't that good. But yes, these are areas where I think Flickball can still improve, because this is not just in this game. In every game, we see the same thing. And again, it's not that we have to be PhDs in long balls. It's fine. If you want to play the shorter game, that's fine. I'm not nitpicking because of that. But these are the areas where, because of the way the team plays, these numbers are always like this. Again, if you look into duels, round duels 60%, aerial 58%, dribbles 53%, 50-50 everywhere, and no clear winner from that perspective, that somebody got totally dominated and somebody totally took it away. Both teams came to play football, both played, and that's clear from the data. Barca probably had a little bit of positivity or on one side, but that's more or less about it. And same thing with tackles. I'm surprised that we did so many. It didn't feel like that when I was watching the game, but looking at the data, it feels that maybe it's true. But you can look at the interceptions, and Las Palmas was very good, very very tactically drilled. That this data just tells you how clear and clean they were with their game plan, and why it was so difficult for us in that first half to score from that perspective. Even the clearances, if you look into it, and so on. Any thoughts, Tom, on this?
I think the thing with SofaScore's data is it's not possession adjusted, right? So defensive data won't be possession adjusted, which means that it doesn't take into account which team has more of the ball.
Correct.
Because Barca has a lot more of the ball, so they will do less defensive actions, right? So that's why we have so less. So that's one thing to note. But the percentage is important there, and we have a high percentage, which is fine, which is encouraging to see. But the rest is, as you would expect, I guess. I mean, they were disciplined, as you said. They did well in their marking and tracking the runners. That was the big thing. And then, they had 2 errors leading to shot. That's also, and one of those ended up in a goal. So there you go.
That's basically what happened. You're absolutely right. So it was an error from them that we capitalized on, which is true, because that's how Olmo got his goal. And even the last one, if you look into, when Rafinha made that pass, I think there were better options for that not happening. Anyway, let's look at tech. Goalkeeping saves 2-2, XG 0.13, 0.40. Not too wrong from both sides of goalkeepers. It just happened. Tech did make 2 goal saves. Nothing much to say. Very inconsequential game, I would say, for the goalkeepers out there. Is there anything to add? Probably no.
No. I think Tech is actually now showing his true colors. He's actually he's well adjusted. He seems fit. He seems sharp, and he's showing his qualities more than he's showing his flaws. So at this moment, again, we feel bad for Pena because he's not done anything wrong to be dropped, but he is obviously at this very moment now with Tech being fully fit, he's obviously inferior in some aspects that Flick just values too much.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Let's take another thought. To your point, Dom, all the big attacking teams in the world make their attacking profile players shoot more often like Bayern or Madrid. Dom, your question.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it is. Because sometimes when you face these deep blocks, especially in La Liga, they can be so stubborn, they can be so deep, they can park the bus and they can frustrate you to hell, right? And sometimes people underestimate how good a proper long shot is, how valuable it is. It is it's a deep block killer, right? That's what a long shot is, essentially, because you don't need anything fancy for it. Just strike the ball well, and maybe it ends up in the goal. I mean, that's having players who can do that consistently well is a cheat code for low blocks, actually. So there you go.
I would completely agree with you. Okay, do you guys see Banal going through the similar rehab and struggles as Gavi? I think we will. I actually think we will. Yeah. I think it's a tough one because we saw Araujo is still struggling. He's come back. He's not been the same defender. Gavi definitely hasn't been the same. So I don't see why Bernal will just come in and waltz in. I think he will go through the same challenges as he does. And the hope will be that he can become the same player because it looks to be very hard to regain that same efficacy when you go through this procedure. So it will be one to watch out for. The good thing is he's back on the grass, he's training.
Yes.
And hopefully, but we won't know until the next season starts on how this pans out. So we'll get to see. But I think, he will go through the same. Now, there's another one that we talked about today, and I'll pick this up because me and Dom were debating about this earlier today, is that would you guys rather have Madrid go deep in the CL and risk a Clásico final but stretch them in the league? Dom, why don't you go first and I'll go?
We talked about this in the podcast, guys. It's on YouTube already, so if you want to listen to it, that's our full opinion on this, but I'll go just shortly into it again. I think the deeper Madrid go in the Champions League, the more dangerous and better they become. They don't have to be the better team on the pitch; they will win, right? So if they reach a semi-final, the final is almost guaranteed. And then if they reach the final and it's not Barca on the other side, they're winning it.
They're winning it.
The only team that's stopping Madrid in the Champions League from that point onwards is Barcelona. No one else. I don't care if it's PSG, if it's Liverpool, if it's Arsenal. They're all losing against Madrid in the semi or the final. They are losing against Madrid. That's how football works in Europe. Unfortunately, as a Barca fan, it pains me to say that. But if Barca are not against them in that final, no one else is stopping them but us. So if we
it's a psychological thing. It's not that Barca is amazing. It's just we have played them so many times over so many years. There's this psychological thing that comes in when these two teams play. And that's what makes what Dom's saying. I agree with that from that perspective. But carry on.
Yeah, it's difficult to say. I wouldn't want Madrid I would always root for Madrid losing, even if it means they get more rest, quote unquote. Because I'm just worried that if you give them an inch, they will take everything. And I think they will go past Atletico Madrid, and then they will probably go past Arsenal. They'll probably go past PSG, and then they'll meet someone in the final, and that someone has to be us. It has to be us, or otherwise they're winning another one. So that's the truth of it. I'm sorry, guys, you won't like this. People won't like it, but I think we have to give them credit. They are a Champions League animal. They are a monster over there. And the only other monster that monster fears is Barcelona. So that's the thing. Everyone fears Real Madrid, but Real Madrid fear Barcelona, and that's the truth of it, right? So we are there to stop them from winning another Champions League. So we have to be on point and meet them in that final if that happens, right?
But that said, if you ask me, what do I would still say league over Champions League.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I would agree. But if it comes down to stopping Madrid, that's what I'm trying to say. It has to be us, no one else. No one.
I think that is. I think even on the timeline, you would see people will make jokes about it, but that's basically what happens. Doesn't mean that we don't get defeated by them, or from time to time we do, and sometimes the defeats are heavy, and that's true. So it's not that it's like a cheat code, but. More than anything, many other teams, I think we have had more successes against Madrid than most other teams out there because of the history and the number of times they play each other or whatever, all of that stuff that comes in. But given between the league and the Champions League, I would still say that yes, we would prioritize the league
Yeah.
over the Champions League, because the domestic dominance matters massively for the club, to
That's
maintain its dominance, to maintain its position, to maintain its fan base, to maintain some local support that it gets. The league position matters a lot. But yeah, if a Champions League comes through, who won't want that? We haven't won one in 10 years, while Madrid has gone and won like 6 or 7 of them. So yeah, it would be really good to win one. We'll see how that goes.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's so tough. I think Madrid are currently still in their vulnerable phase in Champions League. So they're not reached that stage from which they become unstoppable, right? You can still beat them in the round of 16 and even in the quarterfinals. But if they go past that
That's it.
point,
That's
then
final
that's
and
it.
trophy. That's it.
That's it. That's it. So that's why I want us to be there to stop them in that if that happens. But hopefully Atletico Madrid do
But
us a
in
favor and
Champions League, they can't meet us until it is the final. That's been proved already. So if they meet us, it's in the final. If it's a final, it will be the Champions League final of all Champions League finals. Doesn't matter who wins, but so may that happen. But with that, guys, it's been a pleasure. We've been rambling for about an hour. But the most important thing, 3 points. Madrid are third on the league. We'll see what happens tomorrow. So may it continue, because we'll need this in the league. We'll need this to continue, because tough days are coming. There are 3 games with Atleti. There are games with on the Champions League. It won't be easy again. So yeah, lots of tough games in the horizon. We'll need the engine to chug along. So thanks for joining. Really, really appreciate you guys joining in, as always. And watch out for the video. We have a video coming out on Ball Day, as we said, and a blog as well. The podcast is out, and we will keep covering games like this. Take care. Stay safe, and Visca al Barça. Bye, guys.